Welcome to Homegirl Knows Best. This show is about the people, the stories, and all the messy chaos in between. I'm your host, Jen Cameron. Let's get into it. Today's guest is a legend in real estate and a woman who's built empires with grace, grit, and a good pair of heels. She's a mentor, a mom of 3 boys, a small town girl at heart, and if love languages were rewritten just for her, they'd include kissing people on the lips and a good old celebratory spank. You've been warned, friends. It's Stacy Marinello, and she's here to keep it real.
Woo! Thank you, Jen. I can't believe I'm here on your first podcast.
Well, you kind of inspired me to do this, so it's only appropriate. But Stace, first of all, happy birthday week.
Oh, thank you. Good old shit.
Okay, so the question of the day is, who's spoiling you and who deserves a spank?
Well, Jen, you're a little bit like me. We don't need anybody to spoil us because we can spoil ourselves.
Yes,
And spanks should go to everyone.
everybody. No, it's a true story. It's so funny that we're bringing up spanking because I remember when we first met, I was getting engaged to my husband, Scott Cameron, and you guys were nice enough to throw me a shower,
Called a bridal shower.
bridal shower. Yeah. You think that I know what that is. And I'm looking around and somebody had given me like handcuffs and a spanking thing. And there's Stacy chasing my husband, spanking him around the room. So that was a great introduction to our friendship early on.
Yeah, they're like the bar is really low.
Yes, the bar is
Perfectly positioned.
okay, but true story. We've been friends and mentors to each other for a long time, and kind of just people in each other's lives, cheering each other on. I always say when Stacy walks into a room, she doesn't just encourage me or inspire me. She looks at me and she goes, "Yeah, no, we can do better." And I always leave having way more work to do than I did before you came. But I appreciate that so much about you. And you said and encouraged me as Scott did, Jen, you really need to start this podcast. You need to do this. It's something you wanted to do. But, what? Pretty soon I'm just going to be old and dead and I won't have the opportunity. So I better get
Or
going.
nobody's going to want to listen.
I think it'll be more fun the older I get. You know, those crazy women sitting on the porch, they just let it rip. They say whatever they want.
Yeah,
I
well,
hope
we're
to
not
be
too
one of
far
those.
from that.
Yeah, we're not too far. But it was that you can drink champagne during the whole thing that got me to yes. Anyhow,
I'm so glad you're sitting here and doing this. I mean, it looks amazing.
thank you.
And you just have so much to say. And you know so many amazing people who I know their stories are going to inspire people. I'm just hoping that nobody listens today and, and we get through this. And we'll see how it goes.
I think we're going to do great. And, I'd just start by saying, Homegirl Knows Best was really just kind of a nod to my humble roots and beginning and just that feeling of, oh my gosh, I grew up in this small town, Everett, Washington. I couldn't wait to get out of there and get to the big city and do really big things in my life, right? I always wanted to run away from that and say, okay, I've done it. I've made it. And then you get there and then you look back and you're like, I'm only here because of that. All those things that shape me and made me who I am, that fuel me, that's when I want to get to the heart of other people and understand like what shaped them, what experiences did they go through. Only when we tell our stories can we inspire other people. So
I so believe I think no matter where you come from, there's a town like Everett for all of us. You know, we all had acne or we had braces or we saw the popular people and we're still trying to figure out our space. But I think a small town, you know, where everyone knows your name is a really good place to grow up because I do believe it gives you great ethics. It gives you a sense of community. Like my house, the door was always open, probably because we didn't have anything to steal, so it didn't matter. But it's a really good place to leave to find yourself.
well, since we share that small town girl DNA, that kind of scrappy hustler in us, tell me a little bit about the Tri Cities and growing up in a small town. I don't know what was smaller, Everett or the Tri Cities.
I honestly don't know. I mean, the Tri-Cities are known affectionately as the dry shitties. So I'm going to say I probably came from the smaller.
Everybody in Tri Cities literally hates you right
No,
now.
they all still love me. But, you know, Tri-Cities for me is shaped by a single mom. Uh, my dad left my mom when my sister was 6 months and I was 2.5 years old. And so I have a lot of memories of really not having much. Um, I kind of felt that in the earlier days, and my mom worked super hard. But there was that big sense of um, I saw people around me, and I knew that even though I was like a little insecure and a little shy, um, I knew that there was a piece of me that was so confident. My mom is my best mentor. And as things evolved with us, we finally got off food stamps. My mom met my dad, who they've been together 46 years. Um, she would take us out of Tri Cities where we were shopping, Sears and Grin Animals, where you match the top to the
Yes.
bottom. That equals an outfit.
Were you slim, chubby, or
Yeah.
husky?
Husky, fear fucking no. But um, and she eventually, because she also had that sense of herself of hardworking, aspire to be your best. So she would take us to Yakima, where there would be the only Nordstrom, or down to Portland, where there was an Esprit outlet. So while money and circumstances were pretty finite, she still let us believe that we could be the best of who we are. And I'm very grateful for that. But Tri Cities, you know, I had cockroaches in my bedroom. It was a little rough, but it's part of what makes us grittier and resilient and humble. So I always say, no matter who anybody is, we're all people. And I think coming from a small town, it reminds us that if you can relate to the people, no matter where money or prosperity of things takes you, we're all just human.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think you get that if you haven't had some grit in your life.
Yeah, the struggles. So, okay, it's interesting. By the way, I grew up behind Kmart. So,
Yeah. Your worldview was a little less than two.
it was, yeah, we were shopping at the Blue Light Special. Um, okay, so understanding this, but yet you've accomplished all these incredible things that we'll get into. Did you ever kind of as you were growing in your career and pulling out, of that space, those early beginnings and achieving things, look at yourself and say, because I know that I did, there was a little bit of me that didn't really want to share my story. I had this idea that if people knew where I came from, they're going to assume I'm really that and I'm going to be stuck there. Or as I started to achieve things, I'd look and I'd be like, okay, I'm doing this, but I don't know if I can keep this going forever. I didn't believe that it was actually me achieving things. I would think maybe that was just an accident or that just happened until
Mm,
repeatedly I started to get there and go, wait a minute.
maybe I earned this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what I hear you saying is the imposter syndrome was a real thing.
Oh, definitely real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I honestly think everybody has a piece of that while they're still figuring out their strengths and why we're here on this earth. Um, but yeah, I mean, what I always said is my mom, like I said, was my best mentor. She said, "You move towards that what you think about, and don't be the smartest person in a room. Always be in a room where there's other people that inspire and cause your ideation to kind of like move beyond." So I leaned into that, and that helped me not get stuck in where I was from, but where I was trying to move towards.
Wow. So if I was to ask, who was your hometown hero growing up, the person who made you believe you could do these big things? I think I know the answer, but who was that?
Yeah, that would still be my mom. She did one amazing thing for me. In small town, I got mono, and I don't think I was kissing then, but
Shocker.
yeah, but it went on a really long time, and I was an athlete, and it was getting in the way of my sports and my ability to, keep my studies. She had a friend, this lovely, uh, gay, humanly positive man who was, I don't know the right word, but he was like an affirmation kind of guy. He came to our home and he did a lot in mental positive affirmation. And weird enough, I like got over mono the next day. So
Wow.
I literally have this moment in my head, sixth grade, where I remember him visiting and he took me through this whole mental positivity journey that was kind of like you think you were taking shrooms or something, but there was no drugs involved. And I still to this day think something that he did helped me find a different sense of myself and healing. And then that's always also been a place like my mom was a risk taker
Mhm.
and she did things that stand out for me that most moms weren't doing. And so it's still it like, it's in you. You're
Yeah.
like, okay, I can do hard things and I can get through them.
It's interesting. Our moms are very different. Your mom had something else that shaped her, right? My mom had her own struggles, and I don't think she really found, a strength in business or certain other things. My mom was just a really kind person. She always said, when I would leave the door, she would always say, "Be sweet today, be sweet today." And I hated that.
Oh, you did because it
I did.
felt like it undermined you.
No, it made me think that I always had to be nice, that I always
Mm.
had to be sweet. And she had the best of intentions when she said that. And she was kind. Like, if anybody was ever at a place that they found themselves with nowhere to go on Thanksgiving, I swear to God, she had every one of my ex boyfriends at the Thanksgiving table. And I was like, Mom,
Yeah.
this is not appropriate. Like, literally, I broke up with them for a reason. She's like, but they didn't have a place to go. And so she had her own strengths, but I had a grandma who was, also a single mom who was just full on businesswoman. She had bright red hair. She owned a hair salon
Shut
and she
up.
drove a red Mustang
Oh
that
my
literally, when
gosh.
she passed, I think had 13,000 miles on it because she went from there to there. But I think I got her sense of like hustle businesswoman, but I got something else. I got compassion for my mom. And so I think it's great that our moms play such a part in shaping us in
Mm-hmm.
many ways, right?
Yep. Mom's pretty
So,
fierce.
coming out of the, Tri Cities, did you ever? I know for me, I couldn't get wait. I wanted to get out. Like the dream was when I'm 18, I will get out of here and I'll go to the city because we weren't even allowed to drive our car into Seattle. It was like that's the city. I'm like, really? That's as good as it gets around here? But did you know that you wanted to leave a
Mm.
small town and get to something bigger? Was that inside of you? Did it happen on accident?
Just like you, incredibly intentional. I had always said the minute I graduate, I'm out. And for me, Seattle was the other side of the mountains, and it was the biggest, shiniest mark I could think of. Because, again, even though we weren't poor, money wasn't abundant. And so I went to WSU. I wanted to go out of state. We couldn't afford it. Went to WSU. So I was like, okay, fine. If I have to stay in this part of the state, as soon as I'm done, I'm out. And literally, I got married the week I graduated from college and drove straight to Seattle that week.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think for me, Seattle wasn't big enough. I still had like that wanderlust. I had so many things that kept me here my whole
Yeah.
life. And then, you know the story. I moved to New York City in 2010 with my two little kids in tow. Um,
And what draw you there again?
there's an amazing school for autism. It's one of a
Right.
kind. It's called the Rebecca School. It's the Rolls Royce of autism therapies. It is life changing. And when we
Mm,
moved there, I hadn't even gotten the notice yet that Jordan got in. My daughter has autism, and but I knew she needed this, and
yeah.
so I was like, I'm rolling the dice. I'm going. 2 months after I moved to New York City, I got the call, and I remember standing on the street going, "Oh, thank God,
Two
thank God."
months
But
after?
yeah, but I
Wow.
was going to do whatever it took because she needed that. She needed it so bad. And then I found myself there with these kids and I had one job and then all of a sudden I didn't have a job and I had to get another job and there were so many challenges in New York City where I had no friends, I had no family. I just found out my mom was soon thereafter going to pass from cancer. Um, and so it was such a defining in my moment because there was nobody to lean on but me. And I
Yeah.
remember thinking, we're going to be homeless. We're going to be on the street. I didn't even have enough money to get my own apartment because, You have to have 40 times the income. But one thing after another happened, challenge, challenge, challenge. And then I remember standing in New York City going, girl, how long are you going to fight this?
Mhm.
How long are you going to sit here and think it's not you? You didn't do this. You can't do this. And I was like, if I can do this right here in New York City, like in this big ass city by
Yeah.
myself with these kids, I'm never going to question myself again. And I haven't since then. But it literally took me going from Everett to Kirkland to New York and back. But
But what is a step, right? In
yeah.
life, in finding your sense of self and like you can do hard things. And
Hmm.
I mean, I think, New York will always be the high watermark
Yeah.
for basically, are you going to sink or are you going to swim?
Oh, for sure.
There's no Tinder for friends, there's no Tinder for jobs. It's who you know matters, and so to be able to know that you succeeded.
Yeah. New York's a place where it doesn't really matter who you know, whatever. You've got to be good at what you do.
Yeah.
Nobody's giving you a favor here. You got to show up, you got to work hard, you got to do it. But I remember being in this big, beautiful office that the company had just built for me. It was in Astor Place, which is just a cool part of town. It
Mhm.
was, floor to ceiling windows. And they're like, Jen, we're going to do this. And I was like, okay. And I move in, I look out, and I swear to God, you cannot make this up. Out the left side was the Starbucks, and I'm like, oh, nod to Seattle. Out the right side was the only Kmart in Manhattan. It was like, girl, you may think you made it so big, but don't you ever forget who you
Yeah.
really are.
You can run, but you can't hide, right?
No. But tell
Yeah,
me, was there anything that maybe you didn't appreciate about growing up in a small town that later you went, you know what? I really do appreciate that I had that.
for sure. Yeah. I mean, for me, my whole family lived there. So my grandma's house was the gathering place. There was 13 grandchildren. And she lived in an apartment. We got together. That was the hangout place. So a sense of family, the good and the bad. Oh, you got many colors. Family's complicated. Um, but that is something as a mom today, still taking care of my adult children with my heart and wherever I can provide opportunities or resources. Um, I'm thankful that I had family as a base because, like I said, when my mom, before she met my dad, when we had no money, my grandma would come with groceries on the doorstep.
Wow.
And that would be what saved us between paychecks and everything. And so I know for us, if we didn't have each other, I'm not sure what that would have looked like. So I'm always mindful. Family is what, my biggest thankfulness from Tri Cities.
I love that for you. I have yet to find mine.
Well, you were just there 2 weeks ago.
That's different. Well,
Yeah.
I have been up there because I'm working on a project. I can't talk about it at the moment because I don't want to get in trouble for pre-marketing. But I've had to spend a lot more time there, and there are things that are sentimental, right?
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
that block, it's that thing, it's that trigger. But
Yeah.
um, okay, I want to move this a little bit forward because one of the things that's always blown me away about you is your mind for marketing and branding. And this is something that I've had the opportunity to learn throughout my career and be around some of the most brilliant minds like you. Um, and I wish maybe that would have been a different path for me to take because it gets me really, I'm just into it, right?
Yeah.
But
You're
there's
good at it.
something about you, like literally, I talked about it earlier. You walk in the room, you're like, yeah, that's okay, but we're going to go here,
We
we're
can
going
do
to elevate
better.
it. You don't just sell homes, and we've been around real estate for a long time, but you build stories, you create experiences, you know how to position people and properties in a way that sticks and hits differently. And I see you as one of the most exceptional marketing minds in our industry. And I've always wondered, where did that come from? Was it something you studied? Is it learned on the job? Did a mentor shape you or gift something to you that you carried forward? Was an instinct? I have got to know this answer.
Well, that was a long question. My adult career life I've only had technically 3 jobs, I think. maybe 4 now as a consultant. Um, but each one of those 3 jobs, the root of it was, two-part, which was caring about either the entity, like a business, the brand, the stories behind it. My first job was at Eddie Bauer Corporate in Redmond. Very fortunate to work at the advertising department, and that was when Eddie Bauer was at the height. And what I loved was the stories of Stein and Eddie Bauer. Stein was the wife of Eddie Bauer, and their hiking and their sense of constructability and quality over quantity. And when I was there, one of the things that I loved is your business. Every employee's business card on the back of it. It was the gist were 3 parts. It's about exceeding expectation, delivering quality, um, and about having the highest esteem in everything you do. So those 3 cornerstones became a huge piece that I carried forward in my other chapters of my career. But it was the stories of Eddie Bauer that got me excited. I was a visual display artist for like the windows, and then eventually I moved into the catalog side of Eddie Bauer back when catalogs were a thing. and and ended up partnering with 2 creative directors, and we had a staff of 100 people and ran everything from the models to the photography to the copy. But it was the stories of that were so important. And then when I got to uh, develop a company called Realogics, and that was partnering with developers on high rises. I had a business partner that was really analytical and numbers and metrics driven and very, very good at pricing and, like absorption and things like that. But what I saw is, why don't we treat a building like we do like the most coveted our shoes, the brand of our shoes, and think about the storytelling of that building and what draws the community, the neighborhood, the aesthetics, the interiors. And so I applied a lot of the same thinking from my Eddie Bauer days to there, which was telling the story of that building and the life of the people. And then, as you know, we started Real Logic Sotheby's, and I translated that passion for storytelling to not be about the brand, but to be about the people.
Yeah.
Because what I love is your story and your secret sauce. And I firmly believe that any brokerage is only built by the amazing stories of the people. And so that's what I was really and passionate about for a very long time, which was building stories of the brands of the individual. So it's kind of been just part of who I am. I don't know why, but I love the essence of what makes us all unique and special.
Mm,
And I think most times um, a lot of that gets overlooked in our busy lives.
yeah.
And I like to slow it down.
I feel like people want what's authentic. They don't want just a pretty package. That's something that right now, right here. And I think it's important for people that are listening or watching to our podcast to know a little bit about our history, because I moved back from New York City once upon a time and I was your employee when you were building a real estate brokerage. And now I'm doing the crazy fucking thing.
And you owned your own brokerage.
Yes, but, we were really good when we worked
We were
together.
really good.
We really were,
Yeah.
and I loved so many things about that time, and I could come to you with an idea, and I remember one time I can't completely articulate it because 'cause it's been a few years in between. Let me just have a drink. Um,
That's idea juice.
that's right,
Yeah.
that's right, champagne-fueled clarity. Um But I just had this idea. I was like, Stace, got this idea about this city thing, and I think we could do this thing with
Yes.
it, and blah, 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 blah. And like within a week, you had turned it into like this whole marketing campaign. And I just had an idea, but I didn't have the how do I execute and pull this out together. And I learned so much from you. And now I try to keep that, you know, going in what I'm doing now and today in our brokerage. And fast forward many years later, I'm so lucky that you've chosen to work with me,
Mm.
and I'm building my own brokerage. But you've built, massive companies, done these things, but what part of that journey was just you figuring things out as you went? Because I know that sometimes I do know things. I didn't come into this blind,
Right.
but I don't know everything.
Right.
And sometimes I'm like, I'm going to have to figure this shit out. So,
Yeah.
like, did you ever have that when you were going through it? Or was it just like, here I am?
No, there was so many times like remember in the early stages of Realogic sitting there with these developers who had $65 million build out. And I was a branding marketing person. And what I quickly did learn is so much of real estate is about real life, listening to your real instincts, and developers like real truth. And a lot of people kiss a lot of ass and fake a lot of shit. And what I really learned quickly is whether it was Ada Healy at Vulcan or um, Catherine Armstrong at Intercorp or John Midby from the Midby Group in Vegas or, Starwood Capital. Like, I'd be in these big rooms, and the common denominator across all was say your truth, think about what really matters to the product, the client, and don't be afraid to disagree. I had a great client, Dan Ivanhoff, who built the Bravern, and would wear his cowboy hat and his cowboy shoes, and he was the kind that he goes around the table and he'd be like, "You fucking tell me, what do you think?" Like he would put you on the spot, and the only way you earned respect is if you didn't try to kiss his butt, but you said exactly what you thought. And thankfully, I'm still working with him today.
Oh my God, I want that job. See, I would do really good at that job. I don't,
Yes, you would.
ass kissing is very hard for me.
Yeah, this could say no ass kissing, but
It's
spanking
so
allowed.
funny. I had a lot of bosses that wanted to temper me. Or I remember one time one of them said, Jen, you're really good at what you do, but we need to teach you how to do that in a corporate environment. And I
What?
was like, no, you don't.
Right.
Because the minute you try to temper me, I will lose the thing that makes me successful at doing what it is that you want me to do for you. So therefore, tell me what you want to do, you want me to do, but don't tell me how to do
How to
it
do it.
because
That's New
that's the
York speaking.
yeah,
That is your streets on New York
I know.
and coming back believing in yourself.
It's that plus, I'm an autism mom. We speak direct. Passive aggressive doesn't work in our home. In the same way, business, I did thrive in New York because they were like, tell it like it is. We
Yep.
don't have time for that. It's a little different. You come home, you're going to soften those edges. But you've mentored so many real estate agents. What's a piece of advice you used to give
Mm.
that you've completely changed your mind about?
I will tell you, I came when we were building the brokerage. Um, One of my things that I would tell my brokers is say yes. Say yes to everything. Say yes when you want to sit at home on your couch with your comfies and snuggies. Say yes when you got that event. Say yes when you've got that charity. Say yes. So I really pushed my brokers to just like get busy and don't sideline yourself. And there's a piece of that that has a place that I think has some merit. But as I've gotten older, as I've gotten off my own hamster wheel where I was working 7 days a week, till 10, 11 o'clock, or entertaining for way too many people, um, and living for other people, what I realize now at this pace and space and place in my life is that it's okay to say no. It's okay to pull back a bit. I don't need a big circle. I want a circle that matters of the people that fill up a piece of me, that connect with my heart and my head and fun. And so, what I would say differently is do not say yes to anything that isn't true to how you want to live or how you want to be in your own life. And so, I would reclaim some of that for a broker. So, that
I
would
love
be.
that. I think there's a little bit about I hate saying this because it just dates me, but
We're the same age.
yes. But there's two brokers in my office. You know both of them because you've worked with them. One is Phil Greeley. when he made the move over to our brokerage, he was very clear with me that his kids and his family time is non-negotiable and that he was going to prioritize that equal to his business, if not more. Like he wasn't going to make any sacrifices that interfered with that, and he's extremely successful. How he's figured that out is admirable, right? And
Yep.
Jake in my office, he's the same way. When he came in, he was like, listen, I'm very capable of doing that, but I want to be right here because
Right.
I love my life. I love my wife. I love my dogs. I love like to travel. I love what we do. So, I'm going to be in this space
Yeah.
where I want to be again, knocking it out of the park. But they share that in common that for some reason they're prioritizing something differently, but they're just as successful.
But I think you give them a space in this house that you've built where a lot of these other kind of corporate brokerages are weekly, monthly volume stats. Who's selling what? And it becomes like this game of where you are in the chart. And it doesn't, what is lost is who you are and what matters to you. And I think you give a lot of space for people to be their lives, their desires, their goals, personal or professional, have a place in your brokerage. And I think most brokerage owners don't allow that safe space anymore because there's fear. I know right now everybody says, come from a place of abundancy. I'm like, come from a place of infinity. Like, where is your infinity of where is your life being? And don't fear others. The other corporate mantra is so much about FOMO. Who's ahead? Who's over my shoulder? Don't share this. It demeans the value of us creating community and culture, and it creates mercenaries.
Yeah.
And you don't have that.
No. But, you know, I it's interesting. People have always said to me, like, how can you sell real estate and run a brokerage? Well, first of all, the only person that gets to decide what I'm capable of is me. I like doing multiple
Both.
things and I'm good
Mm-hmm.
at it. I
Yep.
know that, right? But I didn't, get into the brokerage business because I thought, oh, I'm going to go out and, build a brokerage and get rich because said nobody.
Said nobody.
I I did it because I needed to feel inspired and I needed something that was going to improve my life. I had felt I was in a soul sucking place. I didn't have a lot of um, respect anymore for a lot of things in my industry at the top where I felt like this disconnect was between people here and brokers here. And I thought, if I'm going to do this, it has to be a space where we're not just thriving in our careers, but it has to make my life better.
For you
Yeah.
when you go home.
Yes. And
Yeah.
then if I feel that way and I want that and I create that, there's got to be other people like me.
Right.
And I found them. And Sandra, she's that
Mm-hmm.
way. Melissa, like I could go through everybody, any of them. I mean, holy cow, Leilani, talk about making someone's life better. She just donated her liver to save someone's life. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm surrounded by these incredible people every day. So my life is better. I actually am just, this is a nice little reflection here, but um,
It is.
so in this space with um, brokerage, you've been in the boardrooms and behind stages, panels, you've been an industry leader. Um, what's one thing about this industry that you wish people were brave enough to say out loud, but they won't? This
Mm.
is not a trick question.
Brave enough to
It
say
is.
out loud that they won't. Well, I think a little tapping on what I just said, that it's not the volume of what you create or make from a sales volume, but it's the values that you bring and your intentionalism, um, that you bring to your clients and to yourself. There's a lot of noise right now. There's a lot of everybody trying to be, look at me, look at me. There's a lot of reality star wannabes. And, I struggle with that because I think in the end, it's feeding the wrong piece of what this industry really, as you look at brokers' bios, it's, I love serving others. I love them helping them find their dream home. I love giving back to my community. The essence of what real estate really is about helping real lives with real people navigate, a complicated and very emotionally important decision. And I think that's taken a back seat to this desire to um, everybody trying to be about I. So
Yeah.
my biggest thing would be we don't get any place in life alone. I would really encourage people to live in more of the we than the I, and to keep your values close to what matters to why you started this, and not about kind of the all the bright lights that I think are
Yes.
confusing this.
This is the weirdest industry because we live for awards, right? And
Right.
I'm like, my reward is the fact that that client is so happy they're going to send me 10 more referrals in the future. I know that, somebody brought their baby home to that house and they're going to be so excited. Or I help that senior through that transition. Or that to me, that's the heart of it. But I meet a lot of brokers, like you said, they're out there like, I'm this big ass baller on social media. I'm like, dude, I
Oh,
can check your numbers. So check yourself.
oh
It
my
makes
God.
me
It
crazy.
makes me just today, my guy checked out this other broker who was like touting all of like some of my
Me, me,
really
me, me.
big
Yeah.
broker friends
Mhm.
that are, top
Yeah.
ballers. And he was doing all of this live streaming with all these 300 million top producers. And so my guy checked out his numbers. He hasn't sold one thing all year.
Yeah.
And it's so misaligned. And then the sad thing I also think is all these people that are like out there hustling and working hard to build up their numbers. They also think this guy who's like giving them lots of attention is a guy that actually is worthy of their clients.
Mhm.
Like, you have to remember, you have to earn trust and respect, and
Yeah.
it doesn't come from that
No.
other stuff.
That's probably why that guy doesn't have any sales because that's what he's carrying forward. It's the same way when, you're negotiating with someone and, the other agent's like, my buyer, my seller, my this, my that. I'm like, listen, chump, that is your client's money that you're messing with, and your behavior isn't helping them achieve their goals. In fact, it may be hurting them.
Right.
Therefore, again, check yourself, calm down, and remember who you're representing, right? By the way, you probably couldn't even afford their house, so just sit on it.
Well, like what you did this last 2 months when you hosted an all day kind of workshop session with your brokers, you got back to the basics. You got back to calling and talking and encouraging your brokers to reach out to their clients and connecting. And I got to tell you, like you said, like both times there was over a dozen deals that came through just that simple, authentic, you know, intentional time commitment, which is back to people.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of these big brokerages um, have just got misaligned about really how to lift a broker and how to help them serve at their best self.
Yeah. I think it's to kind of um,
Wrap this up in a bow.
some eyes. Is that the right word? Big words are really hard
Mm,
for me.
just keep drinking.
That'll do it. It is the day to day, small, simple things repeated over time
Yes.
that will build you the best career, the most authentic, the most loyal clients, right? Calling, being in touch, being authentic, all of those
Knowing
things.
their life.
It's not the other stuff.
You sound like
That
Simon Sinek.
do I?
Yes,
It's
you
probably
do.
because my husband every morning sends me Simon Sinek and then
Does
all of his
he?
others. He's so into his affirmations and he gets up
Oh.
at like 4:30 and does all the meditation affirmations and all that. I'm laying in bed waiting for my coffee. Um
Well, we love Scott Cameron because he does. Ever since I've known you two, he brings you coffee in bed every fucking day.
oh my
Like, that
god.
is such an awesome human that you get to call your husband.
I know. I agree and he
It's
gets the
pretty.
foam perfect. He knows how I
Oh.
like my foam. But, speaking of awards and things, I love quiet wins, right? I will come home sometimes and Scott will say, "How was your day?" or something. And I said, I did the thing. And it's not the thing that everybody thinks is the thing. It's not the thing on Instagram that's being screamed out there. It's the quiet thing that just fed my soul, or that I got done, or that I achieved for someone that I'm not going to
Mm,
scream out loud. What's one of your quiet wins that you wouldn't
mm.
be afraid to share, that maybe is not out there with your TED Talk or your big awards or
Honestly, this kind of hits personal. Um, for me, my biggest quiet win was when I decided I couldn't stay in a personal relationship anymore. And I made the hard decision to leave and divorce. And it was really, really hard when you build 20 some years and so much of it is a public life. Um, but my light was slowly going out. And you know me, I'm always going to be the positive. I'm always going to see the light ahead. The light got really murky. And so for me, the biggest win for me that was quiet, that wasn't about any other reason other than trying to live a life true to myself. And that for me was something I'm internally proud, because it's a whole lot easier to stay in something that isn't working because of all the other pressures than to leave and start anew.
well, I'd say you're winning. I mean, didn't you recently just get married
I did.
to Danny?
Yes.
He's just the best. Okay, so you're really good about pouring so much of yourself into other people, whether it's me, I'm a lucky recipient, brokers you've mentored, your family, your boys. You just know, like you instinctively know what we need and you pour into that. But what is something about you that you've had to fight for on your own, where you've had to fight to believe something in yourself along the way?
Mm. Yeah. Back when I, co owned the brokerage together, my natural instinct is to actually sit in the back of a room. I don't need a stage. So I love to listen. I love to see people and I love to be close to the people that I love. And I used to get in trouble that I didn't go to the front of the room. I got scolded quite a bit. And I started to doubt myself that the back of the room wasn't where a leader sat, that a back of the room, I was doing a disservice to the brokerage and the brokers and my leadership group. And it was there was a period of time where I was just like, maybe I'm not showing up the way I need to show up. But I've learned that actually, when you're at the back of the room and you can listen to people, there's so much more you can learn and there's so much more value you can add. And so I think one of my greatest kind of sense of self-worth is I'm good being behind somebody. I'm good seeing you succeed and do all this. And I might have a piece behind the scenes, but you're there because I believe in you and I believe in what you can achieve. And if I can help you connect to where your strength is, I'm really good that maybe nobody knows my name.
I think that's what makes an exceptional leader, that you allow other people to shine. And let's get real, the naughty spot is in the back of the bus. And if you're a
Yeah.
naughty, you got to be sitting in the
I can
back
get
of the
away with
bus.
a lot more back there.
I was like, all the good stuff happens in the back of the bus. I want to be there. That's where the fun is.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Okay, so you know this, launching the agency Seattle. It's been 3 years. We just hit 3 years. Okay,
And
cheers.
girl,
Let's.
cheers. And your numbers were so strong. So strong. I think you even were shocked at how strong your numbers were. You're like,
I
wait a minute, I'm successful? How what? I'm
We did what?
yeah, yep,
Yeah,
you hadn't let yourself actually see, and you had gone through some hard stuff.
yeah.
Some people trying to steal basically your identity.
Oh my God, I had someone try to steal my brokerage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you
that's the quickest way to find yourself
yeah.
on the street. But it's hard. It's people don't realize, and I always said at the beginning, there's bumps along the way. I had
Yeah,
built other people's brokerages for years. I hadn't done it
true,
for myself.
true.
And I think that, there's a little bit of that. I've been successful for other people. I'm doing it for me now. Oh shit, I better not fail. Oh great, everyone's watching. Oh, and it goes back to that. Who does she think she is, right?
Yeah,
And so that
that
that's out there.
noise. You
Yeah,
can't listen to the noise.
negative noise. But it's stretched me, it's strengthened me. I've had some incredible wins. I mean, you just talked about our numbers last year. That's the collective, right? That is people coming in, helping improve their lives, not just their business, and watch
Yep.
them thrive. And that's the best feeling. I didn't even look at our numbers until the end of the year because I was too busy doing the thing. And
Right.
that sounds a little crazy, maybe, but I
No,
was like, focus on the people, and that's what matters, right? Everything else will work itself out. So,
that's some of my joy is seeing you in your walls. How it's not just like, hey, Jake, you're doing a great job. Hey, Jake, are you struggling a little bit? Let me tell you how I struggled. Oh, is there a commonality in our struggles? Then leaning in to help him find a path to success. And now he's doing amazing. And
yeah.
his whole, like, that's, I think, one of my greatest is seeing, and that's why I'm so proud and happy to sit here next to you, is because of how you actually are shaping the lives of your brokers and not just the business of them.
Well, real estate's unlike any other business. And, I'm extremely passionate about my industry. I'm passionate about elevating what we do. I'm passionate about talking about the value that we provide. And not all brokers are created equal because some don't deserve a paycheck. But for those that do, that care passionately, are educated, smart, knowledgeable, skilled, and create exceptional experiences for their clients, hell yes, they deserve every penny that they earn. Um, but it's the most personal business there is in the world. There's nothing like it. It's a 24/7. It's get up tomorrow, fight for your paycheck, go out there, do the thing. But people have real life. I have people in my office who've gotten divorced this year, had cancer this year, have gone through other health issues, have, had something significant happen, deaths in their family, on and on and on. And they still have to get up and do the thing.
Yep.
And so, um, this side of the brokerage business has been harder than anything I've ever done because I launched into a very unique time. So if I'm succeeding up against all the giants in this industry, I'm
Yeah,
like, fuck yeah, I'm doing great. But there has been times where it has almost broken me.
for
And I
sure.
know that you can relate to that. And it's something that
For
goes,
sure.
yes. Did you ever have a moment like I've had where you're like, this might break me? Um, what kept you grounded? Like, how did you pull through that moment?
Ooh. Well, sadly, there's a few of those stories.
We can
Because
pick one.
yeah, because in 20 some years, it did not all go smoothly. I mean, we had embezzlement, we, had hijacking, an ownership situation with um, I think probably the hardest thing, as a broker said, mom and dad are fighting. Um, uh, how do you say it? Mom and dad are fighting, but dad's throwing names and mom's just trying to take care of the children. We were in a place where a joint ownership was trying, a week before we were opening an office, was trying to hijack our name of our brokerage, the ownership percentage, and all of our brokers. And I will just tell you, my other partner was on the floor crying. Um, it was devastating. My mom and dad showed up and helped pick him up and help create backbone on strategy, resourcefulness of the situation. And uh, it was bloody fucking ugly. The good news is, as you know, um, we got to a place later where apologies could be happening, and you could work in not maybe a trusting environment, but where you reset the table and you could move forward. And now there is um, uh, there a peer in the industry. But boy, those moments when you learn that trust can't be just unanimously given,
Mm-hmm.
and when you see people purposely trying to break you, that's, I think, the hardest thing is intentional breakage. And that's where, like, one thing I've always said, because we've gone through quite a few of these different things through time, because I always feel like we've been a David with a Goliath, um, is I always say, I can bet on myself. I know you can bet on yourself. And if you're the right person, you don't look for others to help you. You know you can bet on yourself. And then the right people do show up because we don't get alone. But that was the biggest thing, is learning that you can get through something that feels gutting,
Mm-hmm.
and you can be stronger, and you don't have to hate people, and you don't have to hold grudges, but you see where people are.
My therapist told me this. She
Yes,
said,
is this
she
therapy session?
said, Jen, when you are in business, you trust blindly. You walk in the room and you're like, oh, I want to help you. I want to put your
Right.
name in lights equal to mine. I want to do this and I want to do that because it takes nothing from me. She goes,
Right.
you have to trust in doses. You have to let
Um,
somebody earn the next step and the next step and the next step. And people, you have to let people earn your trust. And in business, I think that's been the hardest lesson for me is there's a little bit of ruthlessness in this. When you're a
mhm,
business owner, you have to be
mhm.
very protective. And that was hard for me to learn. It was hard for me to learn that I can't trust everybody. This is my livelihood. This is my family. But
That's a good
again,
learning.
surround yourself by the right people
Yep.
and life is beautiful. So you've stayed at the top of the game for over 20 years. You've been doing this. How many years?
I've been doing this since 2000.
Okay. What's something you wish people understood about what it takes to keep showing up like that?
um, it takes um, quite a bit that you can't stay in your status quo. You have to be open and be willing to learn and pivot. That who I was in 2002 when I started Realogics, and who I was in 2008 with Realogics Sotheby's, and who I am today at 2025 as being an independent business consultant. There's threads of who I am, but I've had to learn and continue to pivot. I mean, one of the beautiful things, the CFO of Sotheby's International Realty was a friend of mine for a long time, loved her, fierce, fabulous. She was head of Christie's Real Estate. She was an attorney. She came to a place where she said, I feel similarly like my light is going out. And she's like, I'm in the wrong room. This is not the room for me. And so I think one of the things is to know what room you're in, not being afraid to change your room or to change yourself, because sometimes it also is inward you have to look. And that's a constant evolution of life. You don't get to just stay one place, or if you're one place, you got to be looking around and like, am I growing? Am I thriving? And I think we should all want to keep, um, we don't want to be our status quo self.
No, I want to keep growing. I want to keep changing. That's what I love about my industry. It's where I am today, where the market is, how we're doing things right now isn't going to be the same in a couple of years, right?
No, well, look
It's
at this. Look at
our
this.
podcast.
I'm
I
like, oh my
know. I
gosh,
know.
the status quo is no more. Like, there's a
No.
whole nother door you're stepping through.
Well, there comes a point in your life where you have collected so many experiences and stories, and you need to share them,
Yeah.
and you need to help other people to share them. And one of the people I hope to have on my podcast is Rini, who's our president at the agency. She's one of the most accomplished females, but she has an incredible story. And so I look forward to helping pull more of those. That was totally a pitch, Rini, in case you ever watch this. But Stace, just kind of wrapping up our conversation right now in this chapter of your life, what are you building and who is it for?
Mm. You know, every day I wake up really thankful. It's for my three boys. So I took them to Europe, just me and them last year for the first time. Building memories and moments of our lives that I can enrich them. And I feel like kind of got a short end of the stick with a lot of my business life. So my boys are right there at the top. The other piece is waking up with a great human who's my best friend, who is kind, and knowing I said to him, I said, gosh, I haven't had to feel like I had to apologize for something I've done. Like, 'cause I used to feel I had to apologize a lot. And he's like, you shouldn't have to apologize for who you are. So it feels so good to live in a space where I can just be me. And so, honestly, living kind of a simple, good life with people that want and value similar things and just making good shit along the way, I'm good.
I love that. Cheers to good men and good shit. If you've made it this far, thanks for listening and thanks to my guest. Make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. See ya.